Leslie, I have been looking forward to this conversation for so long because, for the audience that doesn't know, you and I have been friends for a really long time. We first met, I think it was like we were trying to figure it out 8 to 10 years ago. And you've just been someone that has made a big impact on me. And I shared that with you earlier that you are one of our Sprout avatars. So every time that we're building out something for our community, we always say, what would Leslie think of this? And so I'm just super honored that you're taking this time to hang out with me today.
Absolutely. I'm excited. You're one of my favorite people.
Well, good. The feeling is mutual. And so I think what would be really great is, I wanted this year to have more people on the podcast that were in the trenches for years, that have been through all different types of property management. And I know recently you're making your exit out of property management, at least for the time being, but you've had a really long career in multifamily housing. And could you kind of just share like a little bit of a brief overview of some of the highlights of your career?
Sure. So I started as a leasing associate. I had sales background, which I think is a huge thing when you're getting hired into this industry. It's all about people and selling. So I started with the Heyman Company in 2001.
Okay.
I think it was. And I sat as a leasing agent, did a little traveling for them, was promoted to assistant manager, worked through assistant managers with a couple of companies. And then I got promoted to a manager. I think it was like 12 years ago. I can't remember, and worked at different assets. One of the first assets that I was ever a manager at was a D property, and it was very, very cash poor, struggling. And I worked my way up through there, D's, worked up to C's, started a little bit of B's, and then really found my niche in the A market, the luxury market.
And you really have done a lot of lease ups as well, right? Or you've had your hand in several lease ups and been very successful there. What advice would you give somebody that is wanting to grow in the property manager role? I asked that question, and I ask you that specifically because I've seen you grow in your career. And I know from the outside that you are somebody that takes in as much knowledge, as much learning as you can. What would you say to somebody that's like, okay, I want to grow. Maybe I'm not a property manager yet, or I am, but I want to reach that A+ property level. What are some of the tips you would share? Okay, I love it that you brought props. This is the first person that has brought props to my podcast, so I love that.
That was valuable advice given to me when I first took a jump to another company to be a manager, was don't look back, look forward. And my very first boss always invested in me and invested in that knowledge. And I think that is the very first thing that we have. And we have such an amazing resource within our multifamily community that I think it's integral. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know the A to Z of it, and never be willing or never forget to, learn. And you learn something every day, whether it's from a team member or a resident or your supervisor. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a website you follow. You never quit learning. And I think that when she instilled that importance of knowledge into me, I think it really was the reason I was successful and able to take the next step and not be afraid.
Yes. And I think that you were always front and center at any training, trainings that I attended, trainings that I was given, trainings that others, our colleagues were doing. I always saw you front and center. And then what was very different to me is, even in a lot of sessions that people would attend, I'd never see the implementation, but because I knew you personally, you would say, I tried this didn't work, or this did, or we're working on this. And so has that always been something that are you quick to implement?
I do. I tried. I was really wanting to bring back, not all of our team members can go to all of those fabulous seminars, especially TAA, where you learn so much and you learn the new innovation and what's happening and where multifamily is going in the next year, the next 5 years. What do people, what do they see us? Where do they see us going? And you can't lead a team or bring your property into the next level if you don't know that knowledge. So I always wanted to go back to my teams and say, hey, this is what I learned. What do you guys think? Let's look at this example and let's see how we can make it our own. And my teams really appreciated that. And I think all teams do. When their managers come back from some of those seminars, you feel rejuvenated and refreshed. And it's like a reset for you. And I always used that. And I think, you know, we were able to be very successful at some of my deals just because I attended TAA and I got so much from that.
That's a great plug too for TAA, for all the apartment associations, because I do think it's like you're filling your cup, you're getting inspired again. And sometimes even for me, it wasn't that I was learning something that I've never heard. It was a new perspective that got me then inspired to re-implement it again. So I love hearing that and how you brought it back, because a lot of times people think, oh, that's such a huge investment, and it is. But if they have a manager like you that brings it back to the team, you're really spreading that cost across the entire team. So it's minimal when you think about it like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my question for you, because I have seen you do this, I've been in a situation where I know as the manager, you're at the center of everything. So I know you're answering to ownership, to your supervisor, to your team, and to your residents. And a lot of times you were doing that from a construction trailer when everything was dusty around you. How do you balance it being that kind of nucleus, the core as a property manager? And just give me some kind of like, what was your strategy?
So I'm not sure that I really know what the strategy is. And to be quite honest, I think property managers are always in that fighter mode. And you do what you have to do to get it done. I think managing all of those people's expectations is number one. And I didn't learn that like right at the beginning of my management career. It took me probably up until 5 years ago to really understand how to manage, you know, my supervisor that was asking for this, my owner that was asking for this, you know, my team members who needed me. And I decided that before anybody comes the resident. And, you know, you have to manage that expectation too, right? Because there can be those residents that take up all of your time and want you and only you.
Uh-huh.
But they ultimately are why we're here. We're not, you know, yes, we're here as the manager. Yes, you have to manage that financial. And yes, you have your boss and you have to implement your company, you know, what your company is asking you to do there, you know. But what's most important is that resident. And then I think managing the team and making sure that you're empowering them to manage it when you have to step away and you have to get those things done that you have to get done.
Yeah.
And I also think having that open communication with your boss, you know, I've been very fortunate to work under some really great people who empowered me to make decisions, but a lot of times I needed them. And, you know, the communication and letting them know, hey, listen, I know you asked me to get this done today, but this, and this is what's happened this morning. And I'm not sure I'm going to meet that deadline because these are things I can't delegate to somebody else. I think you talked about that this week on one of your Instagram stories, is you have to delegate. You have to get done what you have to get done, but you're one person. And I think everybody needs to remember that. And as long as you communicate and you're reasonable and you try your best and you get it done in, you know, understanding there's a deadline.
Yeah.
Understanding somebody needs an answer. But delegating and prioritizing, I think is very important.
You said so much. So I want to unpack a couple of those things. The resident, I love that because I think when you take care of the resident, a lot of things take care of themselves, because then a lot of the, you know, ownership, they want their asset to produce financially. But if you take care of the resident, usually that's a byproduct. Not always everything goes like that. But I think that not forgetting who our real, you know, our customer signs the check and not forgetting that, I think is huge. But the second thing you said, I've been really working on that right now in content I'm creating, because I've been on the Facebook groups and I hear so many people say, my corporate doesn't know what the heck we're going through. They're asking all these unreasonable things. And my question back is, are you communicating those challenges? Because like what you said, you're only one person. And I've very rarely met supervisors that if you presented it in a very logical way and said, hey, I've got this, and this, what do you want me to make priority? Is that report needed today? They might push back a little, but there's very few that I've, at least in my career, encountered that when you frame it that way, aren't willing to work with you to get to the end goal. Have you found that to be true too?
I do. I think communication is key with your regional or your supervisor. I think that, oftentimes their plate is really, really full.
Yeah.
And they delegate things to you or ask you to do things that maybe they could do themselves, but you have to remember they're being asked that of 5 assets or 7 assets in some cases. And, many of them will understand and will actually help. They might start it for you and say, okay, I've got you to this place. Now you can take it across the finish line. Yeah. And others will say, you know what, I really think this is something that you need to do. And I know you have all the information. I can wait till tomorrow morning at 10.
Right.
So you get up early, you get your coffee, and you knock it out in the morning when you're fresh, when your plate is not as full, and you get it to them.
Yeah, I think that's a skill set I would have loved to have learned as a manager earlier, is how to, I felt like I was always real good at communicating to the resident, but with my supervisor, sometimes I struggled because I wanted to do it all and never let them know I was struggling. And I like you, I think it wasn't until just a few years before I left my role as a property manager that I feel like I got that task, like I got that thinking down that said, hey, they're on the same team, they want to reach the same goal. Even if personalities clash sometimes, because they do sometimes, you're not the same. Oh, yeah. They might be like really hard driven or just maybe not tactful, but you kind of learn that too. Like, okay, I can present this because ultimately they want ownership and management to be happy too. So I think that's great. Property management is never free from challenges. What do you think some of the biggest ones that you've had to overcome were when you were as a property manager?
Quite honestly, I think I'm going to answer for the majority of our industry that are sitting in that property manager role. I think work-life balance is something that I struggled with. I remember having coffee with you one day and I was like, can I do this? And I was in tears, you have to learn what's important in your life. And yes, that property is number one. And it is so important that you do a good job. But your health and your family and your loved ones are number one too. Yeah. So I think
the real number one, right?
They are the real number one. And, you want to do a great job. And I've seen a lot of, even my regionals who are just at the point where they're not able to help us because they don't have that work-life balance. Right. Most recently, I worked for a company that truly believed in it. And I saw that my regional there was much more, she was able to help us because she was given that support on the corporate level of a work-life balance. So I think that is really, really important. I think it's a struggle we all struggle with. I don't know the answer to it. I'd love it. If somebody found the answer, they would make so much money. But I do. That's, I think, what I struggled with the most.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's what I see and talking to clients. I don't think anybody's immune. And even me, like owning my own business, even though I'm not in the trenches, it is still like a weekly struggle. Like some weeks I feel like I put a check mark in the like personal life. And some weeks I put a personal check or a check mark in the work life. And sometimes, very rarely, they both get a check mark. And it's like this constant struggle. But I think you said it perfectly, is that you have to set the example too for your team. And so when the regional or corporate does that, part of the reason I wanted to do this podcast is I want to be that advocate. I want more of us to be the advocate for talking about that it's like, we need that, we need those boundaries. And, saying to your supervisor, hey, when I don't check email after work or at this time, it allows me then to make sure I'm taking care of things at home. So when I'm here, I'm 100% here. And what I think people would do well to realize at the corporate and then down level is happy, people that are happy in their personal lives, they're better employees. So I hope that that's the message that you and I and others that I know, like you said, your other regional, there are a few that are really fighting for that. And I think that's important that we talk about that more. But I would agree that, at least from what I hear from the clients I work with, that is the challenge, is how to, even if you do go home, it's hard to turn it off, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is. And, a lot of us lived on site. for forever, right? And how do you really leave it when you live on site? You know, I have a very good friend who owns her own business, and she does a great job at working as an on-site property manager, running a very successful tablescape business, and being an amazing mother. She does it all. And I've often asked her, what is the secret? And she just says, I just do it. I'm passionate about it. But what I loved about her answer is that she's passionate about that little boy. She's passionate about her side business that is growing into almost a full-time business. And she's passionate about what she does from 9 to 6. So when you find that passion and can draw it out and rely on faith and friendship and support, it'll work. But she's really, she's an incredible inspiration to me. She just,
it's so cool to see like other women too. I think we learn from each other. Cause I remember there was a time that I remember that coffee date that you and I had. And then I also remember visiting your site when you were like dressed up, looking awesome, looking so amazing, but you were out there walking your property, running around in heels in Texas weather in the summer. And I saw you excited, like we're about to do this. And so when you bring in passion, I think it's like, first of all, it's contagious. So like when we can do that for our friends and our colleagues and our team, I left there and I remember telling Lauren, like, oh, I feel like refed seeing Leslie putting in that kind of work. And you were probably exhausted that day, but you were doing it. And so I think you're right. It's like a lot of people that I see when they're getting to that spot of burnout is they've lost that passion and they might need to step back to regroup to decide, A, can I get this passion back? And B, what do I need to do that?
right.
So what about like just little tips and tricks? I know that you manage some larger assets. Was there any kind of batching, automation, vendor partnerships, like any little tidbits that you felt, hey, at the end of my career, I started to really see patterns that when I do this, it makes my life easier?
You know, there's a lot of stuff as a manager you cannot delegate, a lot of items on your list, right? So what I found to be very helpful was those things that I had to do, I'd get them done first thing in the morning. A lot of times get there early, get those bills together, get them scanned in. You may not be able to code them right away, but get that done. Get all of your admin stuff that doesn't require a lot of brain or energy, just the mundane day-to-day things, you know. And I think I also set time out to write those owners reports and to dedicate the time to that because it was important. I think setting time out for your team members to make sure that you're connecting with them every day on some sort of level. Everything is automated now, right? You mentioned batching. So all of our companies are really going to some sort of like ops technology or some way to automate those invoices. I say set them all up, get it ready. That is going to take so much of your time, you know, takes so much time. It codes them, it puts them through. All you have to do is hit approve, you know. Where I would not automate things is team members. Making sure you're connecting with residents, that your door is open. Yes, the Instagram is great. The Facebook is fabulous. The emails you send out, all these resident portals are amazing, but it's still a human connection that these people want. And so you can't automate that every day.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, so much wisdom there, because how did you find time to connect with your team? Like, what did connecting with your team look like? Because I think people sometimes think it has to be a huge thing.
It doesn't. It needs to just, it's a very heartful good morning, something that's really, you know, from the heart. I'm glad to see you today. Sometimes that's all you can get out, right? You're just like, I need you to do this and I need you to do this. But a heartfelt good morning, a heartfelt thank you when they have done a good job. But when I worked for a larger company, we did huddles, and it could have been a 3-minute huddle. It could have been a 20-minute huddle. But when you call it a huddle, it kind of brings it in. It's a team word. So even if I would just huddle with the office, and I wouldn't ask them a lot of times to leave their desks, right? I would just come out to where I could talk to all of them, and we do a 3-minute where are you at today? What are you doing today? How can I help? This is what I have on my, again, the communication, right? This is what I have on my list. This is what you have. Maintenance guys and our housekeepers. I think that good morning to them and the acknowledging them makes their day. All they want to know is that you recognize everything that they are doing for you.
Yeah.
Celebrating them, making sure that they're remembered on their birthdays and on their work anniversaries is really, really important. But that daily good morning, I swear, that makes me feel like a heart of gold. Like I feel like wonderful whenever somebody says a heartfelt good morning, not just hi, like whatever.
Yes, not like, hi, I got to get to my desk, but it's like, I see you. I'm so happy we're in this together. And you're so right. Like, yeah, we can do the big things, but it's like those little, the person that runs our like team, Amber, she has that. We do that a lot in like Slack and video chat since we're all remote. And I swear, like it builds such camaraderie to know that, or so-and-so's husband had to go to the doctor and you take note. I mean, those are to me the things that they blow some of the bigger things we try to do out of the water, because it's like you said, Facebook's great, Instagram's great, but people need to know like when they're in front of you that you care. And that's huge.
Yeah. Being present, and I think somebody many years ago, I don't know who, gave me a list called These Are My Favorite Things. And it's just a list that you get like when you build a team or you're a new manager to an asset, and you hand it to everybody and they fill it out and you really read them. You don't just stick them in a folder and put them away for their birthday. Like you read it and you see, what are things that motivate them? Maybe it's Reese's Pieces, or maybe it's, Sour Patch, or maybe it's a Starbucks drink, or it's, I've got a family, and this is what's important. Heartfelt story. I had a porter on one of my deals and we gave out the Christmas wish list for Secret Santa. And I cried when I got his Secret Santa list because he said, I just want peace in the world. I want to be with my family and I want love. And I was just like, I had to hug him. I hugged him hard that day. Because he was very selfless. But then I knew that was really important. His family was in El Salvador, and he was here alone, living in a little efficiency apartment. He's trying to get his family here. So we learned about that and we asked questions and we tried to see what we could do. I think they're still on that journey, but what you don't know is some of the stuff that people are battling inside. And when they're that open, when they write it down, listen. It's a really important thing.
I think that's a beautiful idea. And then you later know, like for this man, he doesn't mind working hard. He's trying to get his family here and he's alone. So taking a few extra minutes to ask him how he's doing makes such a huge difference. Exactly. I always found that to be true too. Like I loved my maintenance men. Like they had to me the biggest hearts of gold. And I like you always wanted to know like what's the behind the reason that you're doing what you're doing. And I know why you're my avatar. Literally yesterday I recorded a reel on ways to reward your team that are not money based. And one of them was find out their favorites and surprise them with their Sonic or Starbucks drink. So I think you can do things like that for people. And it means so much. And I also, do you feel this way too, especially this year? Like people feel lonely. They don't feel seen. Sometimes they don't feel appreciated. And so, I'm seeing that, especially in our industry.
I think so. I think it's been very hard because we're all such people. You can't be in this industry if you don't love people.
Right.
We have our assistants who are great assistants and they run those books and they're amazing, but they still love people. They still started as a leasing. They still like their residents, and it was hard when a lot of us had to say, okay, well, we're on an A-B schedule. So you're going to work with so-and-so. And you're not going to see your other two team members for a week or whatever that schedule was, or you have to close your office because there's been a scare. I know that I really battled it. It was I almost to a point of feeling not good enough not like I wasn't doing enough for my community. I wasn't doing my job because I couldn't see my residents. I couldn't see my team members. And so I think a lot of us are still trying to dig out of those trenches. But it's going in a positive direction. I'm really excited that everything is opening up again and that people are continuing to try to be very safe and keeping their property sanitized, and they're able to go back to work and really do the jobs that they love to do. But I know that for many people that I know, it was really hard.
Yeah, I think you're right. This year, I feel like exactly what you said, beyond that you don't get to see people, you're feeling responsible for keeping a really big amount of people safe while you're still thinking about your own family, your own livelihood. And I think that it's like our industry needs to take pause a minute and just, tip our hats to you guys that were there every single day figuring it out. And the fact that you brought up the mental struggle, I think that's such a real thing that we don't talk about enough. Is it's a mental game that we're in, because you're fighting. We're humans too. We get scared, we get nervous. And so how do you,
I'm just going to say, and then this ice storm.
Oh, I know, in Texas.
My last day was literally the Friday before the ice, before that happened. And I just was like, oh God. And I couldn't help but that first week wonder, how is my property doing? Oh, wait a minute. It's not my property anymore, but oh my gosh, my heart. And I've seen so many posts on our Instagram group, of these regionals that are just really outpouring the thanks to their teams. And I love to see that. They're, some of them have just been, and you can tell they're from the heart. These regionals are just so grateful for their teams on site.
Yes, I love that. I've been seeing some of that too. So speaking of that, I kind of wanted to wrap with thinking, how can supervisors, how can, corporate level, what can they do to support the teams during these challenging times, in your opinion, from someone being in the trenches?
I think answering questions that need to be answered. Our regionals also have we think we get a lot of emails. I don't even know what a regional's email inbox looks like. But what I think the most important thing, especially when you've got these huge deals that have major damage from this storm or from anything, right, is answering those questions, prioritizing them. And most of them are pretty good at prioritizing them. But the questions that the team really needs answered, they cannot wait. If it says urgent, please respond to that, because it's urgent.
Right.
What I really appreciated about several of my RPMs was they would answer the phone. And that when they picked up when I needed them meant so much to me. And it means a lot to everybody, when you're able to go back and give your team an answer because your regional made themselves available and they're present on their properties and they know what's going on. So you don't have to give them the entire backstory. Yes, exactly. And I think that's what I really appreciated about a lot of my supervisors. And even as an assistant manager, my managers were always available. I was really blessed. We hear all these kind of horror stories of office team members not getting along and maintenance not getting along. But in my entire career, I cannot say I worked for one team that didn't work cohesively, that I didn't work for any managers that were not just amazing. I didn't have any regionals or anybody that just wasn't an inspiration and wasn't, I think they were all fabulous, and it's because they were present and they answered the phone. And they answered their emails.
And they knew what, like you said, what was urgent, and that you guys are on hold because of that. I think, though, to kind of just give my last testament to what you said about that you've never had those situations. I don't think that's by accident, because all those horror stories, I don't think you evaded those because you got lucky. I really think, look at the common denominator that was in every one of those scenarios. It was you. And I'm not saying that it's because you're above other people. I'm saying that it's because I think it's the approach that you took. So I think the lesson for everyone here is, if you're having challenges in every single one with the people, with the team, the common denominator might be how you're viewing it and your perspective. And I think you went into it saying, I love this industry. I love people. There's going to be challenges, but I'm going to find the inspiration. I'm sure there were times some of those inspirational regionals let you down, but
Sure.
you chose to look at what they were doing. I mean, just the fact that you put yourself in their shoes and said, I can't imagine what their email would look like. I think that is a good lesson across the board, is that we're all trying to do the very best that we can. So tell me, what's your new adventure?
I am working for Tilson. They are a company that's very near and dear to my husband's family. My father-in-law's dad started working for them like in 1932, 33. So we're going on 90 years, 100 years of building custom homes in Texas. And then my father-in-law recently retired. I think the cumulative number of years with, if you start from when he started mowing the lawn at the corporate office on Yale Street here in Houston, was like 58. Did pretty much every single job at Tilson, ended up being the vice president of business relations, I believe. But homes are my passion. And so stepping out, just thought I would try to sell new homes, and it's really awesome. I'm having to learn how to draw them. And that's, anybody that knows me knows that math is not like, I have to have my cheat sheets. But it's super exciting. The company culture is amazing. They're family built, family owned, generations. Our senior vice president is 4th generation Tilson family member. And as I am learning about the people that we work with, they have sisters, brothers, aunts, nephews, nieces, husband, whatever. Tilson is a big family. And so I'm really excited, because I think it's what I loved about multifamily was the homes and the families that you help. And so now I'm going to help build people's dreams homes.
That is so exciting. You're carrying on the legacy.
I know. I told them they had to hire me, that they hadn't had so he retired last year, right before the pandemic. And I said they had to hire me because they haven't had a Caldwell on staff.
Exactly.
For about a year. So I think that maybe was my way in.
They needed to remedy that immediately.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I have loved talking with you. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to kind of leave?
I want to leave thanks to you. I mean, you were always there. I remember I would, some of the toughest deals I'd call and be like, or I'd email and be like, I don't know what to do here, and I think your value is immeasurable in our industry. I think there's not really a lot of marketing companies out there that take it to a personal level, that really connect with their clients the way that you do. And so thanks for everything that you do. I know you're just going to grow. And I'm sorry.
Are you going to try to make us both cry at the end of this?
I know, right? I always cry.
I'm like, these fake lashes are going to come off.
No, I just think, I don't know how many people actually say thank you to you and give you and Lauren the kudos, because y'all really have built a great business.
Oh man, it's been so much fun along the way. And I love hearing it from you, because I told the team earlier, I was like, we're interviewing Leslie, who doesn't know she's our avatar. You, and there's one other person, Kristen. I don't know if you know Kristen from Graystar.
Kristen Walk? Love her.
So, okay, you girls are always
in that little group.
It's because it's like, y'all always were like, what's the next thing? What do I need to do? And so we're always thinking about that. And I'm so excited. I hope that things are phenomenal in this as you continue to help people build home, because I think that's where you connect with people is, homes are so important. It's like where we build our lives, and having an impact there. So Leslie, I can't wait for everybody to hear this. They're going to love you as much as I do. And I just want to thank you for spending this time together this morning.
Thank you. It was the best.
Bye.